Hello and welcome to today's LOL Esports Roundup. We're going to cover World's 2023 Semifinals between Weibo and BLG, and then preview tomorrow's series between JDG and T1. Predictions, I thought BLG would win this one 3-2, and Weibo won 3-2. Weibo had some great adaptations that they added in the last week. Honestly, three very unique picks that I did not expect to see out of them, and they were pivotal in this series. So, Weibo win 3-2. Xiaohu 21-12, 24, 29% of damage would lead Weibo in that category. Light 18-8 and 20 had the best KDA. Yagao 21-11, 21, 29% of damage to lead the way for BLG. The mid laners, although leading their teams in damage, I would find them to be the least noticeable players in this series, for better or for worse. TheShai was the MVP for sure. Flipped heads. We talked about this a bit yesterday. I know I mentioned in my prediction video, I believe. If he flips head, he can compete with Ben. Ben did get a couple solo kills on TheShai. I feel like people actually are completely overlooking that. But TheShai did get the better of Ben. There's no doubt about that. In what you could argue the 4 games that was a skill versus skill matchup. Game 5, TheShai was on Ornn, so Bin beating him is not a big deal, because obviously Ornn has some mid to late game potential. Now, he really dominated his ass in top lane. Graves top came out today. Quinn top came out today. TheShai playing a style of League of Legends that we've seen in spurts over the last couple of years. Anivia top, Azira top, like some crazy stuff comes out. And he pulled out Graves and Quinn today. And the Graves was impactful. His rumble in game 1 was great. Honestly, TheShai, like I can't emphasize it enough. I think everybody that watched it knows that he was the big difference maker for a lot of this series. And Ben didn't show up. He sucked. And it makes you wonder how things are going to stack up after this tournament. I do love to make sure that I do my top 5 players in each role like a month after Worlds is done, so I don't let Worlds cloud the other 70 games that occurred this year. This is just one meta. This is not an entire season. But TheShai, was TheShai of 2018 today. Weiwei played Bel'Veth and looked okay on it. Do I ever want to see Bel'Veth again? No, I think that champion is the most bait jungle champion there is. But he did work on it. I thought Sean played fine this series. A lot of people saying he entered his face off. But over all 5 games, I thought Sean was fine. He gapped Weiwei in one of the games, like big time. I think that might have been game 2. Weiwei was on Maokai. He was behind like 100 CS or something. But Shun misses a smite in game 5. That was huge. It was a massive blunder. And frankly, that's a big reason. Well, I won't actually say. I feel like blaming him individually for the loss in game 5 is narrow, because there were some int plays by everybody, and one int play for another int play. Obviously they aren't all the same in terms of value, but at the same time, a mistake is a mistake. Light played exceptional in game 5 on the Kalista, and the bot lane Elkin on probably got the better of Light and Crisp in 3 of the 5 games. We saw that with CSD. We talked about it on the Discord a bit, because there was a little bit of a narrative being pushed that Elkin on dominated the bot lane, and I just don't think that was true. I think they won 3 of the 5 games, but games 1 and game 5, the bot lane of Weibo showed up, and in game 5, Light came out to play, flashing underneath the turret to get that double kill after Weiwei had a great Maokai ulti was kind of the moment in that game where I was like, oh, they're here to play. Like, Light is not going to be denied in this one. And honestly, it was the first game I've watched live at Worlds. Every other game I watch after the fact, 2 times speed and all that jazz, because of whatever, I got other shit I got to do. So seeing that, I felt like into this game, and it was a nice feeling because I haven't had that feeling in several months now. Not being able to really watch meaningful games and live. Obviously, I watch games like I said, 2 times speed, and I already know the result. So it's just kind of like, how did we get to the ending? So yeah, like and crisp looked good. Crisp on the Renata looked good. There were moments where, like I said, Elkanon showed up. Even in Game 5, I thought in team fights, Elk had some good moments on the Caitlyn. On looked okay on the Lux. If he doesn't get that double kill at the one point in the late game, maybe the gold goes somewhere else. We're looking at a different scenario. In my opinion, Weibo kind of tried to throw that series at the third Drake fight. They dropped their ultis too early, trying to catch TheShai on a TP in, and really just going all in on him, and they lost that fight. Lost them to Drake. Eventually, they would then go and BLG would sneak a Baron. And that game was up for the grabs. But BLG started to falter. Weibo found some picks, found some opportunities. They would go all the way down mid lane and almost end the game. They were taking down Nexus turrets and over extended, and BLG were able to respond. And it was back and forth. And then, yes, the last fight around Seoul, Light was able to secure it with the Callista. And one could argue that was the game-saving, that was the series-saving play, or at least the closer when it came to that, because Mountain Soul on Ornn is obviously disgusting. And frankly, on a Maokai is also probably quite helpful. And keeping it away from Keisante and Sejuani is probably nice too, right? So, that was a big deal. And it's just like, it was close. It was close. It came down to that. It came down to those key team fights in Game 5. Weibo showed up. There's a notion that BLG underperformed. Bin underperformed, but I don't think BLG underperformed. I thought Yagao overperformed, personally. So maybe you washed that out. Actually you can't, because Bin actually inted his fucking face off in top lane. But, close series. I could hedge my bets and say this, if this happens, this is the result, and then have every result, and then be like, oh, well, I knew it was going to happen. But BLG 3-2 is what my prediction was, and I said if TheShai shows up, this is a series, and it was a series. TheShai showed up. You got to give Weibo's coaching staff credit. They brought out some interesting drafts, changed things around, and in Game 5, it ended up being a meta draft versus meta draft that we've seen all worlds, and Weibo showed up. And they're going to finals. Now, since the start of this event, and I said it before I'm pretty sure I said this, Weibo's always had the potential to win. Did I think they would win? No. I said that in my prediction video also. I didn't even think there was a possible. I thought they were the team that was most likely outside of BLG because of the curse, and then me pushing that narrative just to piss off the little fans in the comment section. But Weibo was the team that could flip tails and lose to bad teams. Like, we saw that throughout the LPL season. And that's why I said there's no way they're going to flip heads throughout this entire event. And then they got lucky. They were playing against some bad teams for most of the tournament up until today. And they flipped heads today. They could have flipped tails last week against NRG. We wouldn't have even really realized it. So, flipped heads, beat BLG. We'll see if they flip heads again next week against the winner of this. I think it's entirely possible. Weibo's ceiling is the highest at this tournament. That's why they've beaten JDG both times this year. People don't want to acknowledge that because it's like, oh, but those are just best of threes. But we tried to cite that between these two. Those same people would say, well, BLG beat Weibo, so that means BLG is going to beat Weibo again. I'm not saying that Weibo's going to beat JDG because they beat them in best of threes. I'm just saying that it isn't a guarantee that JDG is going to win next week or T1 just because Weibo are the 4 seed from the LPL. I think that'd be foolish to actually think it is a guarantee. So that's it for the recap. Now on to the sneak peek. We got JDG T1. This is a matchup we saw at MSI 2023. JDG would win that one 3-2. Let's go over some things here. So, Top lane, 369 would go 8, 10, 28, 54% KP, 19% of damage. So he was playing weak side. Some thoughts with this as well. Some picks in that series that we probably won't see tomorrow. Scion and Malphite. Just champions we really haven't seen at Worlds, right? So Zeus 7, 11, 21, 70% KP, 27% of damage. So Zeus more impactful when it becomes relative to his team, and he was also more involved. And we'll notice that the T1 KPs are higher than JDG's. And over the 5 games, you could argue it's pretty much even CSD. Zeus ahead in 3 games, 3-6-9-2. Now, Kanavi, 13-6-41, 81% KP, 17% of damage. On average, was up 3 CS over Owner, who went 5-18-28, 83% of damage. 21% of damage, 83% KP. Across those 5 games, Kanavi was ahead in 3 of them at 15 minutes. Some picks we saw at that tournament, that we probably won't see. Xin Zhao. I doubt we see Kazakhs, and I don't really think we see a Kindred tomorrow. So those 3 picks are the 3 that I would say are most notably not going to happen. Mid lane, this is the most obvious difference, I think. This is going to be a totally different vibe tomorrow. So Knight, 15-7-45, 93% KP. He was everywhere. 24% damage, on average up 4 CS. He was ahead at 15 minutes in 2 of the 5 games against Faker, who went 6, 18, and 28, 70% KP, and only 17% of damage. And if you recall, this was when Nautilus mid was a thing. K'Sante mid was a lot more relevant as well. And I doubt we see those tomorrow. And that was what Faker was playing. Excuse me. So, because of that, I think there's a totally different vibe, really, to this series. Does that mean that the result will be different? Not necessarily. That just means that the vibe is different. Because Nautilus mid, as much as I love Nautilus being relevant, I don't think I'm going to see him tomorrow in that role. Ruler, 28, 7, 17, 67% KP. Missing 3, 10, 52, 82% KP. 40% of the damage, and they would roughly go even against T1's bot lane across 5 games. In 3 of the 5 games, JDG were ahead, T1 were ahead in 2. Guma, 21, 11, 10, 78% KP. Carrier, 1, 10, 31, 80% KP. Excuse me. And 35% damage. So we see from the damage here, T1's damage profile a lot different. Top side getting 48% of the damage versus JDG's, which was 36%. And then in terms of picks in the bot lane, honestly, everything is... I could see Jinx tomorrow. I could see Aphelios tomorrow. That was kind of the handshake at the last event, I think, for all the games. We saw Lulu, we saw Rakan, Braum. I think Braum would be, I guess, the least likely. But at the same time, with the meta shifting towards 80 carry supports again, which is what we saw last Worlds and we saw at the beginning of this season, maybe the bot lane's going to be totally different. Only, the top side's going to kind of, I don't know if it's going to remain similar, but we'll have, Maokai's still there, Sejuani's still there, K'Sante, things like that, Gragas top. It's a very interesting series. I think there is something to be said about missing trying to play 80 carry supports in solo queue. Is it the wrong thing to do? No. You need to be able to offer that in your, I don't know, if your tool belt, if you will, tomorrow in draft. You have to be able to respond, and not only respond, just play it and then know how it operates in the support role at a higher level, so you know how to counter it and things like that. But like I said, I think there needs to be something. There is something to be said about JDG worrying about the way T1 is playing, and instead of just focusing on what got them here. Weibo showing that necessarily isn't always the way to go. You need to have some new things to show up with, and that's a valid thing for JDG to do. I just think it's something to note that, missing his playing 80 carry support and trying to match carry in that way. We'll see if T1 shows up. The whole excuse me. The whole T1 choking in finals deal and being chokers and shaker memes and carry a crying memes and all that is interesting because those all happen in finals. It's the only way the finals choking meme actually exists, is they have to do it in finals. It's not semifinals. So those, I guess, aren't relevant tomorrow because this is in finals. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube supporter, and hope to see you again tomorrow.